The best leaders and communicators that I've ever met aren't the ones with the best intentions. They're the one that are willing to evolve in how they deliver a message, think about the other person and where they're at, and they evolve accordingly to the impact that they land with. Connection with someone else doesn't come from being right. It comes from being heard, understood, and then adjusting when making a wrong move.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast is brought to you by Unlocking Greatness with Jacob Emery, a coaching community built for those ready to become the strongest version of themselves. Weekly calls, proven playbooks, and a community built to grow. Greatness is not given, it's unlocked. Join us today at jacobemery.com or DM coach at jacobemery44 on all social media platforms.
Welcome back to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. And today I want to talk about something maybe controversial to traditional thought. So I'm going to say it, maybe uncomfortable, maybe not, but your intent does not matter nearly as much as what you think. Your intent does not matter nearly as much as what you've maybe always thought it does. Not in leadership, not in a relationship, any sort of business setting, because people don't experience your intentions. They experience your impact. Let me say that again. People don't experience your intentions, rather they experience your impact. So whenever you do something with good intent, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to land well. It doesn't mean that the impact will not be different than what you thought it should be. So your intention doesn't matter as much as what you think it does. And there is a gap between intent and impact. And that's normally where conflict lies or where conflict starts. And a lot of time it's not even addressed. What you meant to do internally, your intent is your internal system. It's what you think is going to be the outcome. But the impact is the reality of that. So what you mean to happen and what actually happens are completely different. Let me break it down for you. Intent is what you meant. Impact is how it landed. It's that simple. So the intent lives up here in your head. It's renting space in your head. It's the perceived thing that you think should happen, but it's not what normally actually happens. The mistake a lot of people make, especially with leadership, is that these high performers, these people that are in decision-making spots in a business, they have decisive personalities maybe, they are maybe very direct. Maybe it's just a communication difference. And delivering a certain message a certain way may even be positive, but it doesn't mean it lands that way. It can come out negative, or it can be a direct thing that you're trying to say and come out very pessimistic. It doesn't have to be that way. You can have the pure intent with the logical explanation, the logical intent, this thing that may even be coming from a loving place, but it can still create a harsh impact, a feeling of resentment or hardship from the person that's receiving the news. Fear, disconnect, resistance to hearing it. You can shut people down. This is where phrases like, that's not what I meant to do, or you're taking it the wrong way, or that wasn't my intention. We've all said them before. But the reality is, it just creates a bigger separation, and then it creates damage because you never repair that damage because you might be right, just weren't effective. So what happens when we say these things? Well, that wasn't my intention. All you're really doing is protecting your identity, and you're not protecting the actual thing in that relationship or that partnership, whatever it may be. So here's some known wisdom. People don't react to what you mean, they react to what they feel about what you say. So just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean other people are going to feel that way. Think about a moment, whether it's either in your business life or personal life, where this has showed up, because I know it showed up for all of us. Maybe you received direct feedback. And maybe when you received this feedback, you were not in the emotional state to receive it the way it was presented. Maybe you were somewhere else when you walked in a room and presented this thing and it was destructive for you. Intention's good, positive opportunity, whatever it may be, but it still didn't land right. So what happens? It diminishes the conversation. It tears down the thing that may have been good, but you can't realize at the moment. So intentional help for others or intentional positivity has to be taken with a grain of salt on the impact that can happen in that moment. So sometimes you got to understand that temperature of the room. You got to understand the other person, maybe clear the slate before having the conversation, before landing this thing, whether good or not good intention, just make sure that you understand where you're at. Saying things like, I was just trying to help, or, I had the best of intent, or I didn't say anything wrong, is probably not the way to go. So sometimes it's not about being right, but it's about getting it right and having a effective deliverable. The moment that the impact is said back to you that, hey, this thing made me feel this way, or this thing had this impact on me, and you just reference what your intent was, you're not actually listening to the person. So you're not being open to receiving the feedback. This episode of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast is brought to you by R&R Pipeline Inc., an infrastructure company. Join our team today at rrpipelineinc.com. Impact reveals how information lands. And often when impact is brought up and we don't listen, that information never comes to us. So if you listen, though, on the impact side, it tells you how the words land that you say, how your tone is received, and the experience that that person had with your authority. I've seen a lot of leaders in different businesses lose trust of their team, not because they were wrong, but because they were more committed to being right than being effective. There's such a big difference between having the right answer and effectively getting the right answer to everyone else. And once someone feels unheard or like they are dismissed, they're not relevant in the conversation or in this project, they don't get validated for their thoughts. They stop listening to your intent altogether, and then there isn't a good impact to be had. So how do you close the gap? Here's the big thing. Don't try to justify being right. Don't try to justify, don't try to explain. Just acknowledge, hey, I hear you, I see you. Because if you only go on that impact, you're going to have a bigger gap, and we want to close that gap. I can see how this landed differently than I had intended. That could be a lot better deliverable. You're acknowledging the impact. Even though you mentioned the intent at the end, you acknowledging that impact. That wasn't my goal, but I understand the impact that I had made. So you want to make sure to acknowledge the other person's receiving impact. And this is not a weakness. This is leadership. Understanding the empathy of that other person is part of leadership that is often overlooked. So whenever someone has a reaction to a good intended thing, you don't know why. Be curious. Ask questions out of curiosity. Be real methodical in your approach. Think about, hey, I noticed you had a certain reaction to this. What did I say or do, or what brings that up for you? What did you hear? Can you repeat back to me what I said to make sure we're on the same page? Making sure the dialogue is communicated clearly. Have them repeat back to you what they heard, and then you can get clarity on your end of how it was presented. Curiosity keeps trust alive. It keeps the conversation going. If you are not curious and you're conflict or criticizing, it's often going to shut down someone and they're going to put up a wall. So think about adjusting the behavior and not just the language, adjusting the presentation of it, the body language, the tone. If the impact keeps repeating, the issue isn't misunderstanding, it's a pattern, something that you're doing. Intent without adjustment is just ego. Intent without adjustment is just your ego. So impact is feedback. If you constantly get the same feedback from people and it's not good, your intentions don't matter. Your impact is not being received well. So feedback can be the data that you need. Hey, you said this thing, made me feel this way, let's course correct. If you ignore it, you're going to limit your ability to be a good leader and to have influence on the people that you're trying to lead. So make sure that you reset the standard. So here's a standard that you can live by. You are responsible for your intent, but you're accountable for your impact. You are responsible for your intent. Good intentions come right from here. They're on you. But you should be held accountable for your impact. So if the impact is bad, it's on you. Take accountability for it and try to better that impact. The best leaders and communicators that I've ever met aren't the ones with the best intentions. They're the one that are willing to evolve in how they deliver a message, think about the other person and where they're at, and they evolve accordingly to the impact that they land with. Connection with someone else doesn't come from being right. It comes from being heard, understood, and then adjusting when making a wrong move. So intentions, impact, they're vastly different. Close the gap. Lead with good intention. That's on you. That's your responsibility. But impact is accountability. Have accountability for the impact that you deliver a message with. And when you close the gap between intent and impact, watch your communication, watch your trust building, watch everything change around you. So if you want to hear more about communication, different frameworks that can be utilized, go to jacobemery.com or jacobemery44 and DM coach at jacobemery44, all social media platforms. Sign up for the group coaching today, jacobemery.com. Let's unlock greatness. Stop telling yourself one day. It isn't about one day, it's about day one. Today should be your day one. What you need isn't another day. What you need is clarity with the community to give you confidence to unlock your greatness. That's what the group coaching program is all about. Confidence, clarity, via commitment. Hit the show link in the notes. Let's start unlocking your greatness now, today.